I remember my first good counsel gala. I didn't know anybody. And Chris took me under his wing and made sure to introduce me, made sure to introduce everybody to Gianna. And over the years that I've known him, have been profoundly inspired by his endless yeses to our Heavenly Father. And profoundly inspired by the yeses of every person around him that works and volunteers and supports good counsel homes. This is like a light in the midst of darkness, and I just thank all of you for this work that you are doing. We started the Gianna Center, as you just heard, in 2009, the first Gianna Center to provide pro-life reproductive health care for women. We do general gynecologic care. We offer alternatives to the birth control pill for managing women's health problems, largely by identifying what the cause is and correcting it, just practicing good medicine. We teach a modern, highly effective method of natural family planning, so couples don't have to use hormonal contraceptives that are believed to potentially have an abortifacient effect. And we offer an alternative for treating infertility that gets to the underlying cause of why a couple's having trouble conceiving, allowing them to conceive naturally. And so usually when I'm invited to speak at any event, I usually speak about infertility, which people think is very counterintuitive at an event that is meant to support women dealing with pregnancies that they weren't planning and aren't sure what to do about. But many people don't realize that infertility is actually, not infertility, current standard infertility treatment is one of the greatest sources of destruction of early human life. So 1 out of 6 couples will experience infertility. It's extremely common, profoundly painful. And when they go to a fertility doctor, a little bit of an evaluation is done, and then very quickly they're told to do in vitro fertilization. Take out the eggs, take out the sperm, put them together in a dish, grow that, they call it, the embryo, the baby. Discard the ones you don't want. An average of 7 embryos is destroyed for every baby conceived through in vitro. 40% of babies conceived through in vitro will be born prematurely, have lifelong consequences as a result of it. These babies have a higher risk of birth defects and of getting cancer as a child. And yet this is the standard in women's health care. So Gianna, just trying to be faithful to Catholic teaching, offers an approach called natural procreative technology that was discovered by Catholic doctors trying to be faithful to church teaching. But this ethics led to the discovery of an approach that's as effective, restores normal health to the woman, has effectiveness rates that are just as good, but very low rates of prematurity, average rates of birth defects, natural, no increased risk of childhood cancer. So it's usually my primary mission to let people know there is an alternative, and you can find it if you look us up. Tonight, though, I feel really compelled to speak about something else. And that is the historical moment that we find ourselves in. This is a celebration, but if we don't have this conversation, nobody will. On January 22nd of this year, already a profound day of mourning for us, the anniversary of the Roe versus Wade decision that legalized abortion, our governor signed a law that legalized abortion for any reason through all 9 months of pregnancy. It removed requirements for doctors to take care of infants accidentally born alive and consequences for allowing that child to die. It allows non-doctors to do abortions, even though the research shows there's more risk for women. And it decriminalized killing a child in the womb in any circumstance. not just in the course of abortion. And just a few weeks after the law passed, a young woman, Jennifer Irigoyen, 14 weeks pregnant, she was stabbed to death in Queens. Before the governor's law passed, the murderer would have been prosecuted for her murder and for criminal abortion, but after the law, only her death counts. In the weeks that followed that law, the governor of Virginia, a doctor, a pediatrician, publicly said if he was present at an abortion where the child was accidentally born, they would keep the baby comfortable until it died, not provide to it the care that would have been given to a child of the same age in the same circumstance. And a legislator from the same state publicly and unequivocally said the law that she wanted to see passed in her state, which thanks be to God did not pass, would allow a woman to have an abortion as she is in labor delivering a baby at full term. We are standing at a pivotal crossroads in our country, a pivotal crossroads. To celebrate these laws, which, quite frankly, almost legalize infanticide. Our governor lit the Empire State Building in pink and broadcast pictures of people cheering. At this pivotal moment, we, the people in this room, have got to make a choice. It is so easy, and I say it is so easy because I am accusing myself of this first. It is so easy to think someone who's smarter, or someone who's more influential, or someone who has political power, or more money, or more time, somebody else is going to do something about this. We have to own it. Every single one of us has to own this as something that we are not going to let happen. And so I want to talk about 4 very specific, very practical things that I think if we do, every one of us, every day, actually could turn the tide. Actually could turn a tide that I think is already turning because of how radical these laws are. And so what are the 4 things? The first is to please continue doing what you're doing. Continue praying, continue fasting, continue supporting groups like Good Counsel Homes, the Sisters of Life, Avail, our amazing pro-life ministries. The peak of abortion, there were 1.5 million abortions a year. There are now less than 1 million, which is an incredible amount of progress, nowhere near the end. We cannot give up that ground, so we have to keep doing what we are doing. But we have to do more. The second thing is that we need to change the narrative about abortion. For the past 46 years, the social thought about abortion, the kind of superficial social thought about abortion, people hear the word abortion and they think choice, and they think women's rights. But that is changing because of these laws. Because of these laws, when people hear the word abortion, they're starting to think late-term abortion, infanticide. We want them to be thinking about the child, and we can play a critical role in making that happen. You may have heard of something, this phenomenon called a tipping point. So a tipping point, well documented, well studied, is when an idea that is not widely believed or widely held rapidly, almost overnight, becomes the mainstream in a culture. The best example of a tipping point is what happened with the smartphones, right? One day, we had never heard of them, we didn't think of them, and 3 years later, we could not live without them. It was like, how did that happen? That's a tipping point, but the same exact thing happens with ideas. And you can, the research shows, you can engineer a tipping point. And what is needed is for 17%, this is the magic percent, 17% of people must deeply believe the idea and must talk about it to everybody they can as often as they can. The studies, the public opinion polls show 15 to 20% of Americans consider themselves strongly pro-life, 15 to 20% consider themselves strongly pro-choice, and the 70% in the middle are open to influence. And so if we want to control the narrative, we have to talk more than the other side. With compassion, with kindness, with reverence. Always have in your mind the person you are talking to may have had an abortion. We don't need to beat them over the head with an argument that wins. We just need to keep planting the seed. You turn to the person at lunch and say, oh my gosh, it's just tormenting me that our governor passed a law that allows abortion of a baby at full term. You just plant a seed. But the more we keep saying it, the more people keep hearing it. That's how we change the narrative. Number 3, your healthcare choices matter profoundly. Every single attack on innocent human life, at the beginning of human life and at the end of human life, require the participation of a doctor, a healthcare provider, or a healthcare system. There is deliberate indoctrination of doctors. In my medical school, I went to a US medical school in a major city. Our ethics training boiled down to one single idea. And that was that your professional responsibility as a doctor is to provide any legal choice that is available to your patient. It is your professional responsibility to check your beliefs at the door. And the students believe that's what it takes to be a good doctor. If they are hearing no other message, it's what they will continue to do. Healthcare is very difficult. There are attacks on conscience. It's very hard to deliver. It's very expensive. It's very regulated. And where people go for their health care is going to determine who stays open and who doesn't. So even though it might be inconvenient, even though it might be hard, go to your good pro-life doctors, and especially go to your Catholic healthcare systems. I mean, right now, 1 out of 6 US hospitals is Catholic. They are the only entity in healthcare with the size and the scale and the influence to continue to stand in the gap on abortion and euthanasia. We cannot let them close, but it can happen. New York City used to have, 14 or 15 Catholic hospitals. Now there are none. There's Gianna, a little medical center, and there's Calvary, an end-of-life hospital. Amazing. Don't look at healthcare and say, it's somebody else's job. This is part of the pro-life movement. And as hard as this is, ask your doctor. Do they do abortions? Do they support abortion? Again, kindly and respectfully, but if they say yes, then find another doctor and tell them that you're leaving. Tell them your heart is broken to do it, and tell them why. It may be the only witness that they have. Number 4, I'm almost done. I just learned this week, thanks to John Murnane, our wonderful chair of the National Gianna Center, works tirelessly on these issues. Senator Pam Helming, a New York State senator, has introduced legislation in the New York State Senate, the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. Call her. To be a pro-life politician takes an incredible amount of courage. There's an incredible amount at stake. They need our support. The legislation needs our support. A politician once told me they get the note cards in the mail, they know people are interested, they get emails, They know people are interested. When their office is flooded with phone calls, they know they better act. It takes a lot more to call. It takes a long time to sit on hold. It's how we're going to make an impact, and especially on this particular bill. Please think about calling her and calling your own senator. 4 things I would ask us to just think about doing them every single day. Continue to fast and pray and support work like Good Counsel Homes. Talk to every person you can, even if only for a minute. Support our good pro-life and Catholic healthcare centers. And when pro-life legislation is proposed, take the time to do something. I truly and absolutely, knowing that God created everything that is and will ultimately triumph, I truly believe that with him, and if we do all of these things, then one of these years, when we come to this gala, we will be celebrating not just the amazing work of Good Counsel Homes, not just the incredible women who I've gotten to sit with this evening, who make these heroic, courageous, inspiring choices to give life to their child, but we will also be celebrating an end to abortion. Thank you.